This offers 5 categories of feature leads. Keep in mind that an excellent lead may combine 2 or more categories. The first is a statement lead, but not just any statement. Make it a strong, provocative, or intriguing statement. Now, the statement should also use contrast, color, or surprise for additional impact. Then you have the narrative or anecdote lead, meant to grab the reader's attention by placing them in the middle of the action. These tell an eyewitness account, either by the reporter or by the source, as to what is happening. The description or scene setting lead does as it implies. It sets the scene for the reader. The lead is not as action-packed as a narrative or anecdote lead, instead relying on colorful, vivid language to describe what the reader should see, hear, smell, taste, or feel. A feature lead can ask a question designed to intrigue the readers and make them think. Now, this type of lead is less popular than the first 3, as the writer needs to make sure the right question is asked, or risk boring and alienating the readers. Now, remember, we already know that "did you know" is the worst question of all. A second type of lead that is typically avoided in news writing, but can be acceptable for features, is the quote lead. Now, again, we already learned that the quote lead often doesn't fairly summarize the story and can be an opinion rather than a fact. That's why even in feature writing, the quote lead can be used, but should be used sparingly. Let's take a look at some of these leads in action from student journalists across the country. The first is a statement lead. When Allie Scheisel, a freshman double majoring in English literature and writing for new media, was asked if she identified as a feminist, Scheisel responded without hesitation, "I do." This lead is from the story Feminism, Not a Dirty Word, published in Arch's student newspaper from Mount Mary University in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and was a finalist for an award for Best Diversity Story from the Associated Collegiate Press. The lead is a simple, declarative statement that helps set the tone for the story, which includes information on how some people are hesitant to accept the label as feminist. For this and the next few examples, you can click on the image to be linked to the entire article. Now, I strongly encourage you to do so with this one, regardless of how you might personally feel about the topic, as the story itself is very well designed, with alternative copy boxes, including quotes, timelines, and suggested future readings. Here is an anecdotal lead. Sammy Miller found herself struggling to shake intrusive thoughts of suicide in her dorm room one night during her freshman year. And the second paragraph. Diagnosed with depression, anxiety, and borderline personality disorder, Miller knew what was happening. She called her therapist, who urged her to hand over her antidepressants to the building's front desk so she wouldn't be tempted to overdose. This lead is from the story Searching for Care, published in the Minnesota Daily from the University of Minnesota in Minneapolis, and won an award for Best Feature Story from the Associated Collegiate Press. Now, this lead starts with Sammy's story about dealing with mental illness, setting the tone for the rest of the story, which delves deeper into the experience. Sammy and 3 other University of Minnesota students are balancing mental illness with school. The story also has some good alt copy boxes, mainly showing statistics that are important to share, but might bore the reader if the text was filled with lots of numbers and comparisons. Showing them visually can be much more appealing and informative. Finally, we'll take a look at a descriptive lead. First, there is silence. Then a syrupy wave of synthesizer keys and jangling beats bounces in. It begins slowly before starting its patient ascent. The intensity builds, each click of the key and each clunk of the percussion gaining momentum. A voice interrupts. It's your move, it beckons. It is a smooth, sexy, and sensual invitation. Enticing, as it is hypnotic. This lead is from the story Vaporwave is the online-only music genre you've never heard of, from Eldon at Santa Ana College in California, one of the top community college newspapers in the country. This lead helps introduce the reader to a relatively new electronic music genre called Vaporwave by detailing how a song might sound. You can click through to hear some song samples and see if they fit with what the lead describes.